Hi, I'm Sonya from Castle Creek in northeast Victoria. I've got 72 acres here and I run sheep and I buy in steers. I came from a farming background. My dad's got some land up in the Queensland, New South Wales border. I hadn't farmed myself at all. I'd come from the healthcare industry and I'd worked in sales and I'd also worked in reception in places. So this was very new to me and a big learning curve. I think coming into farming, I think I knew I had to be curious. I had to be ready to learn and to listen. In farming you have to have hope, and I'd recently heard somewhere that hope is an action, and that's what's driven me forward. Like, you know, I go and I do something and I go, I hope this is going to produce forbs, or I hope this is going to do something, and when it doesn't, it's like, well, I've taken the action to move towards that. So coming here, I didn't have a lot of resources, so I knew that what I did, I had to have a big impact with what I did, and I also had to learn to be resourceful with what I have. And so I think a part of learning to be resourceful with what you have is gaining knowledge as well, because that takes you down different tracks where you can go, righto, I remember hearing that, can I do it this way? The first thing I implemented when I came here, I was very grateful. The previous owner had electric fence running, and I'd found a temporary wire in the shed and started just doing what I now know as strip grazing. And that was really great for me to learn about the cattle and also to keep an eye on their welfare and to have a look at, like, hey, what impact is this making? Look at that, this was bare ground, now little things are coming up. The ground has been stirred up here and now little things are growing. It was really good to see that high impact for a short time, and allowed me to get more out of my grazing. Even not knowing what I was doing, I could see that it was doing that. I've been to conferences that Nutrisoil has put on, and they bring in some amazing people. And so I go along and I hear it and I take it all in. I'm trying to madly write notes, and then I just stop because it's just so interesting, and that gets filtered down. And when I'm out doing something, I go, oh, hang on, I remember them talking about this particular thing. I'm going to try that now. This isn't working here. Let me try doing that. Or here, and then also meeting people at these events as well, hearing their stories. Like I remember doing a round table at a lady called Brooks Place, who was up near Brooke French, who's up near Tumut, and what she was doing was just an inspiration. She was this, you know, she is a single lady out on this massive land. She was running it by herself, and she was going, right, this is happening, that's not great, but I'm going to keep marching forward. And it's like in those moments where you feel like, oh golly, you know, we're in drought again, there's, you know, the grasses aren't growing. What do? I keep taking that step forward. There is hope, so keep on doing that action, and drawing on those, you know, from what you've learnt from people and what you've seen from people is so important. Donga Urban Land Care has also had some great courses. That they had Healthy Hectares, which started me off in 2019 as well, learning a lot about the you know, just the run of your land and how to start managing what you've got. Also, Kiwa Valley Land Care Group has had some great courses with Judy Earle and David Hardwick. I've done a few courses with David Hardwick, and look, they've all been instrumental. I haven't done this by myself, but I've done it with the community that's given input, which I'm very grateful. You know, we all know about our gut health, and to me, the soil is like our gut that can influence so much. So I remember going, I've got to get some of that. So I bought this big shuttle of Nutrisoil that I've nearly completed now, which I'm so excited about, and putting that out and just seeing that my grasses recovered quickly when we had events, and they also were later to die off. That's what I noticed, my first things. And I wasn't so much having a look in the soil, because I was looking at what was on top of the soil, and what I saw I really liked. It was giving me that longer bit of a feed in the dry season, and I was starting earlier in the, you know, once we'd had our autumn breaks. That was really exciting. I was up at my parents' place and my dad had got in a bit of superphosphate, and my firstborn at the time, Ollie, he went and ran up the fertiliser, and I noticed that his little feet got blisters and he was burnt, and I was feeling not good about that at all. And then I started thinking, oh my gosh, if it did that to his little feet, what's it doing to the soil? I didn't know, but I knew that I didn't want to go down that route of putting a lot of input into my soils that I didn't know exactly what it was doing. I had to find other ways that was already putting in what it needed that could help get out from the soil what the plants and everything needed. So I had my lambing season from July through till probably September, with a few late stragglers in October, just 2. And I'd noticed I'd used 3 paddocks in particular to watch them, because we had a fair bit of, foxes are very game, they're coming in at all times, and I wanted to keep a close eye on them. So they were in 3 paddocks. So those 3 paddocks had been really hammered down. I was feeding them out hay too, so they were, getting fed, but they were picking on dirt, so they were really poor. And I went, what am I going to do to recover these? Because I'm still going to need those paddocks, because it goes to my yard, so I'm going to need those paddocks when I go to mark them, when I go to draft them, all that. I need those paddocks, and I want them to have some food in. And if I buy in more cattle, I need to have some food. That's where I start, getting to know those cattle, getting my cattle handling started. So what am I going to do? So I had been aware of the vermicast from Nutrisoil, and I went, what's this going to do? So I made the phone call, spoke to Damien, probably Nicola, and asked about that. And I was excited by what I heard, what that can do. So I went, righto, I'm going to do this. So I drove out in my little ute, picked up my vermicast, and came home, had my bucket, and I was spreading it out my out in my paddocks. And we didn't have any rain from memory. We didn't have any rain come September, October. We might have had a little bit in October, I can't remember. But what I did remember seeing was, as soon as we had that rain, the paddocks where I had put the vermicast in, those paddocks just came alive. There was greenery, there was growth of grass. And that was exciting, because come December, when I put the sheep back in there was enough for them to eat. I didn't have to feed them hay at that time, which is pretty remarkable, considering that I had just basically put the vermicast out and it was a bare paddock. And then come, I think it was January, we were out there again, so they had been, the paddocks had been eaten down. We got a bit of rain in, might have been late March or early April. Again, I saw it come up. Unfortunately, we didn't have that whole lot of rain, so some of the stuff did die off, but just recently we've just had some more rain. And I am so excited by what I'm seeing. I'm seeing ground cover, more ground cover. I'm seeing less spaces between what's coming up. I'm seeing more coming up. I'm seeing that I'm now going to be able to have feed in there for, if I do, depending what the season holds, if I do bring cattle in, I'm going to have feed for them in that paddock. It's just really exciting. I'm just seeing really cool things happening in those areas. I had trees where it had been bare for all the years that I've been here, and now there's little things springing through. So it might be weeds, but that's still exciting, because there's something happening under that soil now, which is just fantastic. I've also noticed, I think more is soaking in and soaking down, because previously I would be able to see the little gullies where it had washed down, and the movement of just the dead grass, because that's all that was in that paddock was dead grass. I had been able to see that, but this time I didn't. Very, very few. And in the areas under the tree, which is very hard and very, when the rain comes down, it hardens it more. I'm actually looking over there and I'm going, oh, it looks like I've spread compost on that, because it actually looks soft. It looks like I can put my finger in there a little bit and plant a seed. So that's something pretty cool. I feel really good that I'm actually using products that are putting back into the soil what needs to be there, like the little microbes, the little fungi, all of that starts unlocking all the secrets into the soil that we don't yet know about. I feel really excited by that, because I'm not putting in stuff that I don't know enough about. I don't know enough about the other inputs that I put in. 1, they cost more. 2, I don't know what they're doing. And so for it to be, I think my aim was to get the soil working from how it knew how to work, rather than adding inputs all the time. I'm running a marathon, I'm not doing a sprint. That's the way that I see it. And if I can build up slowly to something bigger and better, then that's really exciting. That's what I see. And so I was at a conference, at the Nutrisoil conference, and I was talking to Damien, because I had heard about putting Nutrisoil in. It gives it a better kill rate, and maybe also it would do something to eat up the chemicals that are there, so the chemicals didn't lay bare. So I did that the last 2 times that I have sprayed, and the last one being in November. And what I have noticed is I have got this greenery coming up through the blackberries now. Before, when I hadn't put the Nutrisoil in, that's all laid bare. And what I've also noticed is that I'm now able to go out and pull out those dead stalks of blackberry. They're dead. I can pull them out, and there's that grazing area for my animals there to eat. But the most exciting thing was that I now have this ground cover underneath this big expanse of what was blackberries. There's now plants coming up there. I think it's hard sometimes when you're farming by yourself and you're having all these thoughts in your head, and I do get that paralysis analysis, and I sit there going around that circle and maybe down that drain a bit, and then I'll make a phone call and I'll speak to Damien or I'll speak to Nikala, and then I'll be reinvigorated and re-inspired, and off I go again. So it's so valuable to have those supports that Nutrisoil offers, and I can't thank you enough, honestly. It's just so brilliant.